Welcome back. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi held two very important meetings about heavy industry and about steel industry, and taking into consideration that the national mega projects are part and parcel of our economic development. In the very same time, you would find President Sisi keen to speak about the agricultural land and to make sure that in no more than 1 year, 4 million fiddles are going to be cultivated on the ground, another mega national project. But also, to take into consideration or into account that Egypt is keen to go in both directions in the very same timing, because we do not have the luxury to waste more time. There are very clear presidential directives to increase the number of small, micro, macro, and medium enterprises. And yesterday, there was another very important meeting. This time, it was presided by Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli and the head of the Small and Medium Enterprises Agency in the New Alamein City, in the wonderful New Alamein City, in the government headquarters there, and with the attendance of many ministers and the governor of the central bank, Dr. Hassan Abdallah. Why? To make sure that all efforts exerted are or presidential directives are implemented on the ground, and there are efforts exerted to make this a story of success. To have this balance, it's not an easy job. But we are here to answer many questions how to achieve this balance and how to add more efforts to guarantee their success. We are very much delighted and honored to have with us live here in the studio our dear guest, His Excellency Ambassador Mahmoud Ayoub, a former commercial minister. Thank you very much for being with us, sir.
Good morning to you and to the viewers.
Before going into the details, let me have your vision regarding this balance I mentioned in my intro between having the two sides or the two paths of development going on in the very same time. National mega projects and the very small micro and macro, in addition, of course, to small and medium projects, are very much encouraged by the state to make sure that the wheel of development is going to continue on the right path.
The importance of micro, small, medium-scale industries is paramount because it absorbs almost 60% of the manpower in Egypt. So it is more than half of the economy is affected by this sector, which President himself is pushing so that they upgrade it and make it going up to his expectations as far as Egyptian economy is concerned. When this medium, small, micro, medium, small, and the medium scale industries are on course, so this means that the private sector will have its share in economic development in Egypt, and this share is very important because the government cannot do everything on its own.
Sure.
So the private sector is a must if we are serious about making real development as far as economic situation in Egypt is concerned. This is one thing. Other thing is that the tools of today are very important to use. We are in 2023, not in 1023. So there is a big difference between what was happening yesterday or before yesterday and what we should be doing today and tomorrow, especially for the small scale, let us call it small scale industries.
Okay.
Because as I mentioned, it absorbs 60% of the manpower. It is the real impetus for the economy, and also it encourages the other investors to come and to cooperate.
Amen.
We are always looking to the investors, whether local investors, Arab investors, or international investors. When we are paving the way for them all and speaking to them in the language which they understand. The language they understand is that the language of today. That is, information technology is a must when we are dealing with this enterprise.
Sector.
Yes.
To add to what you have just said, sir, because I like the term to speak with them in the language they understand.
Yes, of course.
In my humble opinion, the language they understand is deeds, not works. And there are a number of incentives which were released by the president to help all the industrial sector or investment sector in Egypt at large, and of course including the small scale enterprises as you named them. First, the exemption of taxes. Second, to take into consideration that this exemption for 5 years can be doubled if you are continuing on the right path. About the land on which the factory or even the workshop is located. A number of incentives to make sure that in deeds, not in words, the state is keen to help all startups, entrepreneurship, new businessmen, newcomers in many fields, you name it. How do you see these practical efforts, sir?
The password is indeed. Indeed, not in words, as you mentioned now. Why? Because for investors, I would say investors, have read a lot of texture and a lot of texts and regulations, and they have heard about it. But when they come in practice, situation might be a bit different. When we say indeed and not in words, this means that we are serious about encouraging new enterprises and existing enterprises to increase its presence in the market. This is one thing. Other thing is that any investor is looking to the returns.
Sure.
That's quite normal. When we are speaking about a big market of 110 million only in Egypt, and if we add the African continent and the Middle East, that is the Arab countries, so we are speaking about more than 1.6 billion consumers. So any investor who is coming to Egypt now and seeing that the government and the president himself is serious about putting in practice the words which he says, this creates a new, I would say, a new environment for the investors. That is to say, that the Egyptian investors are the first to venture and create a new magnet for the other investors to come and put their money in Egypt and invest in the many projects, and we have established a very strong infrastructure and platform, which makes it easier for any investor now to come and ensure that there is security, there is stability, there is power at 24 hours, 7 days. And
golden license, you name it. And yesterday, the meeting of the Premier in Al Alamein, they spoke about 202 new projects providing, I think, more than 370,000 job opportunities. And it seemed that when they were speaking about these numbers, they are speaking about only a start in a long journey. How do you see these numbers as only a start?
These numbers by itself is the best magnet for the would-be investors, whether local or Arab or international, to come and invest in Egypt. When we are seeing the success stories, which we are witnessing now in Egypt, in many new projects, this means that we are in a position to encourage and invite more investors to come and see the other sectors which needs development in Egypt, whether it is land reclamation, power sector, transfer of technology, and also not only transfer
digital transformation,
yes, digital
green hydrogen,
the green hydrogen,
renewable energy.
Yes.
Because this was my common question, sir, regarding the new, relatively, let's call it this way, relatively new markets, relatively new fields, innovative ideas, thinking out of the box, you name it. When it comes to this, how do you see also the state's keenness to encourage the investors or the new investors to invade new horizons of investment?
They are encouraged because the government is paving the way for them and initiating the process of the new projects. When the government itself is having its projects in green hydrogen and the other sector. This means that the government is keen to attract more investment from new and established investors in these new areas, because the green hydrogen, we have the assets. We are lucky that we have the assets, and it was initiated. When it was initiated on the ground, it means that we are serious and come and see, let us see how you will benefit from this good opportunity in this big market. This is one thing. Other thing is that when we are transferring technology with the newcomers, this means that we are raising the level and the standard of our industry, and at the same time training the new generation for the new industries which are vital, not for today, but for years to come. So what is happening today, we will reap the results not only this year, but in the near future, we will see that the total income of the country, or total domestic product, or global domestic product,
Gross domestic product, the GDP.
The growth will be phenomenal.
Inshallah.
In most of the countries of the world, the growth was a little bit limited because of coronavirus and the war in Ukraine. But now when we see that Egypt, even at these times, was achieving a growth, this means that the growth can be increased. Why? Because we have the inputs, we have the raw material, we have, more important, the will to do it now, not tomorrow. And when the president is going himself to El Alamein or Marsa Matruh or other parts of the Egypt and overseas to encourage investors to come and invest in Egypt, this means that we are serious and we will see positive results in the near future, not after years, but this year and the years after. This is one thing. Other thing which is very important, the local manpower needs training.
Vocational training, yes.
Vocational training. This vocational training cannot happen on its own, but it should be helped by the foreign investors who are coming keen, because every year you see hundreds of thousands are graduating from the universities in Egypt. They need job opportunities. When you mentioned now that 207,000 new jobs are created within a very short time, this means that it can be replicated in other areas of the economy, whether in the green energy, or in new energy, renewable energy projects, and also when we see land reclamation and using new techniques.
Sure.
Whether for land reclamation or for agriculture by itself, this means that a lot can be done, and it was initiated now. It is good that we initiated the process, and we need to
Building
continue.
new urban communities, build it and they'll come. When it comes to many new cities which are already established, and many urban communities are going on with the newcomers, with new generations, with new life, let's put it this way. Sir, when you were talking about all what's going on the ground, I don't know why I felt that it's really amazing to benefit from others' experience. Who can say that the German economy, for example, is not that developed, is not witnessing progress all the time? But when we know that the Germans themselves, they really knew or really evaluate and appreciate every single small project, and to take into consideration that even if they are that famous in cars industry, for example, but still, if there is a very small project only consisting of two people, it's not less important. How do you see benefiting from the others' experience? And here I'm talking about a developed country, not a developing one, with all my respect to all.
When the Germans are coming to Egypt, especially the Germans, they see, first of all, relations between Germany and Egypt is quite friendly and amicable. This is one thing from political point of view.
Sure.
Second is that when they see success stories, they tend to encourage and push it forward, because they are benefiting. They are transferring their technology, and they are also investing in future, and investing in new generation who is keen to find a chance to live better. That is a very important thing. When we see that many small scale industries are cropping up in the desert, I have seen such such projects in Elmenia and in Beni Suef. When you see new areas are established there and industrial production is beginning, even investors from Morocco are coming to Egypt, and I know many persons who are doing that, and they are doing it, and because the market is a big market and a big consumer market, which should be changed to productive market. This is a very important thing which the government is keen. When they are helping the private sector, they are helping the private sector to be a productive sector. This is one thing. When we say vocational training, this means that we are adding value to the hands of the workers, not just manpower, but educated and well-trained manpower, which is a very important for any new
Qualified
investor.
cadres, let's
Yes.
call it this way.
Yes.
Yeah. And this is what's going on. It's no secret that a very high-profile German company, which was responsible for building many of our power stations here, they trained our engineers, our power engineers. And since the Egyptians are proving that they can do miracles, this company, with the support of our engineers, they started another or other projects in the United Arab Emirates, for example. So those who were behind building new power stations in the United Arab Emirates by this German company were Egyptians. Sir, joining the BRICS, and to make sure that Egypt, inshallah, is going to be a member of the BRICS starting January 2024.
Yes.
All what we have said, to what extent this was a very important factor behind accepting Egypt's request to join BRICS?
We know BRICS 5 countries, 6 were added. Egypt is one of them, or the first of them. Why? Because it has the potential for the near future, it has the capabilities, it has the population, and it has the access to other markets. So BRICS 5 countries, that is Brazil, South Africa, China, India, and Russia, are making a big effort and establishing a presence in Egypt itself. There are several, at the moment, there are several Chinese, Russian, and Indian projects who are in the golden triangle of Suez. So there is a base.
Suez Canal Economic Zone.
Yes, golden triangle or economic. I call it golden triangle because it is really golden triangle from economic point of view. When they have a presence, they increase their presence because they know that the potential is very high in this market. When they come, and they came with the money, that investment, with the know-how, transfer of technology, and also with the entrepreneur mentality, that is to encourage the new generations, that the youth, boys and girls, to come in and help establish a good presence for them when even they go to the United Arab Emirates to establish power station there using the Egyptian engineers. This means that
minds and hands in the same time.
At the
because
same time, yes.
we will not differentiate between an engineer and a technician. Both are needed, and they both are very important for the success of any project. Sir, if you permit me, because I really like to listen to your vision regarding this, the financial inclusion issue and the investment laws, how they do help in making what we are talking about a story of success.
Financial inclusion began some years
earlier.
We have seen it in banking. We have seen it even in many ministries that we are sitting at home and having documents which we need electronically So we began the process. And that is very important that we begin process, and we should continue at a higher rate.
Yes.
That is very important. Second thing is that the new generations, every year we have thousands of graduates from the universities. They want a chance. The first chance is in Egypt itself. To have a good chance, they need vocational training, as you mentioned now. So, and they are having it, and we are exporting them, if you can say exporting them
Yeah.
to other countries, whether to United Arab Emirates or to African countries. I know of certain cases when the Egyptian engineers and technicians are going to African countries with the Egyptian investors in these African countries. So there is a lot of potential for the Egyptian economy and the Egyptian business people or Egyptian business community. They are doing a lot. Maybe most of it is not publicized. Some people prefer.
And because of this, sir, I wanted to ask about our
Yes.
culture. Now, you repeated this more than once in your speech when you talk about the thousands who were graduated every single year, and they really want to start their career, new life. It's not anymore about being an employee and going to an office, staying for 6 to 8 hours, just working with some very traditional managerial issues. No. How do you see this culture? I mean, is it now really changing on the ground, taking into consideration that our youth now, they are sure that they can start in even a remote area, in another place, invading new markets or new horizons of investment and industrial projects? Is this going on the ground? I mean, have you seen it yourself? Because you are a very, I would say, high-profile member of Rotary and enjoying NGO meetings, and you meet with the youth. Is it true?
It is true. When I see that the new generation, that the youth are venturing in new areas in Egypt itself, they are going to the Western Desert, for example. Western Desert was neglected for decades. But now when we see, during the last 10 years, we see the new generation are establishing a presence in Siwa, for example, or in Marsa Matruh, or in Farafra. And they are creating small projects. And the outcome of the products are going, exporting it to their acquaintance and friends in Europe by air. This means that there is a new mentality which is cropping up in Egypt during the last years. The new generation is making every benefit of the facilities which are offered to them by the government, but they initiate their own way of finding a place for them under the sun, and at the same time they are exporting their products from Siwa, for example, or from Marsa Matruh to other countries. When I see that, even if we go to Sinai, when I see that the olive oil is exported from Saint Catherine to Greece.
Greece?
To Greece.
Oh, one of the sources.
Yes. Greece is very famous with its exports of olive oil.
Yes.
They are importing.
This is surprising for me, by the way.
Yes, this is a fact. Olive oil is exported from Saint Catherine to Greece, where it is exported to the international market. Maybe it is exported under Greek names, maybe. But in all cases, I find that we established a presence for Saint Catherine or Sinai in European market. I look to it from this angle. We can increase it. Once we create a presence for a product in a market, we can add another product to the same market. Once we establish a product, a presence for a product and exported it to a market, we can establish a project in these neighboring markets. That is something which we have to make use of. And we have seen many success stories, although they are individuals or private sector, and I'm pleased that they are private sector. In most cases, they don't speak about what they have done, but we know it because they are our friends. And from with the NGOs, we know a lot about the business persons who establish a presence in Morocco, as I mentioned, and now investors, Moroccan investors are coming to Egypt and investing in Beni Suef and El Menia. We are pleased for that,
Yeah.
and we should push it forward.
And the partnership between the public-private sector, in addition to the NGO or the civil societies, I think this should be the basic rule behind the achievements we are achieving on the ground and the development process which already started, and nothing is going to hinder it. We are going forward to Egypt 2030, to the new republic, and nothing is going to hinder the Egyptians from achieving this goal. We were very much delighted to have with us live here in the studio my dear guest, His Excellency Ambassador Mahmoud Ayoub, former Commercial Minister. Thank you very much for your interest, sir, and have a very good day.
And to the viewers, thank you.
All right, after this we are going to turn back with more, so stay tuned.